Hey, what is going on, TCG enjoyers? Ciaran here with another play breakdown video. The response was really good on the last one I made, which was awesome. So I have another play I wanted to break down today. It's actually a pretty old one. It's from the Louisville Regional Championship, but it's between two decks that are still really relevant today and that haven't really changed much with Surging Sparks. So I really wanted to highlight it. So we're going to start off by showing a really cool play from the Charizard player. I've also created the board so you can give it a try on your own. And we're going to kind of go over how I think Regidrago player went a little bit too aggressive. And then we're going to go back and look at maybe explore some alternate lines they could have taken, to have the game have a different outcome. And then we're also going to go over a really cool checkmate that the Charizard player did. So I've created all the boards in the simulator. I will share the link so you guys can all try them before we watch the videos. And I'll give my analysis as well. So to start off, we just have to have some context. The Drago player this turn did their V-Star power, and they're going to do Ciaran and wipe the Charizard player of both their Charmanders and the Duskull to take a 3-prize lead. And it looks from here like the Regidrago player is in a pretty commanding position. The Charizard player doesn't have a way to evolve to Charizard from the board. But I think you'll see that there's a really cool play that's available to Charizard that kind of actually just like wins the game on the spot. So you guys can pause here. I've created the board in the simulator if you guys want to give it a try. I like one-to-one created it. Otherwise, we'll watch together what happens, and then we'll break down why it's an awesome play. So, okay. The first thing I think we have to recognize after this Ciaran is we have to look at our opponent's board, right? So one thing that sticks out to me immediately is that our opponent got rid of all their energies, actually, and they only have one Ogerpon in play. So next turn, it's actually impossible for our opponent to attack, right? They can go Teal Dance and attach, but that's only 2. They actually can't attack again. So you might be thinking oh, we can just bench Charmanders, get ready to attack on the following turn. But it's actually one turn too slow. So I'll kind of go over why I think that's a little bit too slow. So let's say from this position, all your guys get knocked out. This is our hand, right? Let's say you just on your turn bench Charmander, you get another one with a stretcher. So actually you don't even need to do stretcher because they can't knock you out. You even get a Duskull or something. I guess we'd have to get back our Duskull. Anyways, you make a board something like this, doesn't really matter. All that matters are Charmanders there. Now on our opponent's turn, they can go Teal Dance for 1 and attach. And now it's a bit too slow for us to catch up because on our turn, even if we make a Charizard now on our following turn, so if you knock out this Ogerpon, now your opponent has time to get another one, and now they can E-switch and make another Drago, and then if they have Boss, they have Prime Catcher left, whatever, then they can just take out Pidgeot, Rotom, whatever. So we give them time to do that by letting them get this one energy attachment down. Or if you go for a play where you put Defiance Band or something and knock out the Drago, the Ogerpon on the bench will just come up and knock out your Charizard. You don't really have time to actually give your opponent a turn to attach. You really need to strike on that turn. I'm just gonna refresh the board real quick. So we really do need to find a way to put the pressure on our opponent, right? Okay, well you might be thinking, well, how can I do that? I don't have a Charmander, right? So one card that Charizard decks play is Thornton, right? So maybe you can use Thornton to take advantage here. And you have the Forest Seal Stone. So you have Quick Search, Forest. That's 2 cards guaranteed. So to pull that off, you're going to need Thornton. You're going to need a Candy, a Charizard, and a Counter Catcher to take a prize this turn. Because even though you have Defiance Band, when you Thornton, the tool card is going to stay on the Rotom. So yeah, in the game, you can just go for a Quick Search to get the Rare Candy. You can do the Forest Seal Stone to get the Thornton. You can play Ultra Ball, and you can actually get rid of the Charmander because, like we said, we're not under threat of being attacked. And then you can get the Charizard that way. And then, oops, not Bez. Not Rod. Get Charizard, right? And then you would just do a Thornton play like this. You would make a Charizard. You can put the last energy on Pidgeot if you want within your deck. And this would have this. You counter catcher the Ogerpon and attack. And now you take 2 prizes, and our opponent still can't attack, right? Because they don't have any energy in play. So our opponent needs to take the next turn off. And if I look at our hand, we even have Boss's Orders in our hand. So on our following turn, if our opponent tries to use Cleffa, actually they wouldn't Cleffa, they need Ogerpon. They try and do Hoot Hoot or something to try and leave a 1-prizer. You have a Boss's Orders to kind of get around that, circumvent that. Like if you got a Duskull down, you could have even gone for like next turn like Rare Candy Dusknoir, knock this out Briar. Even though it's a bit overkill, you don't need to do that. But from here, like you're fine because Drago, like they can't take 3 prizes again unless you for whatever reason bench 3 little guys who can get Ciaran sniped, which you're not going to do because you're a good player. And now no matter what our opponent does, we're going to be the ones on the following turn to take the prize lead, and we'll get down to 2 prize cards. And then from there, like you're just going to win. So in the real game, this is exactly what happens. Sebastian like finds that play. He like does the Thornton play, makes a Charizard, counter catches the Ogerpon, and now the Drago player is just stuck. So we're gonna skip ahead now to Sebastian's following turn, and I'm gonna show you guys a nice little checkmate scenario you can make. Oh, skip too far ahead. Go a little bit more. Okay. So here, like we kind of predicted, right? Our opponent just puts up Hoot Hoot or Noctowl, sorry, and like they try and set up Drago for the next turn. You're like, all right, hopefully the Charizard player just takes a 1-price knockout and we can maybe come back. So I set up that board here for you guys. You can try and pause again if you want. Try and find the checkmate where it's like an unlosable situation if you're the Charizard player. Okay, got enough time to pause, so I'll kind of go over it. Okay, so a couple things we're thinking here is we want to definitely take 2 prizes this turn so that we can just win on our following turn. So like we said, we have boss's orders in our hand. So you can just play boss, you can knock out Fez or Ogerpon, it really doesn't matter which one you pick. I'll just pick Fez. Okay. Now the only thing we have to think about is, okay, what's our opponent going to do, right? Like they're going to knock out our Charizard. They can just go like Teal Mask, attach, E-Switch. If you knock out their Ogerpon, like they can still do it with they just bench another one. So that's what we have to be worried about. So it's like, how can we play around that? Well, like maybe you could get another Charmander ready so you can make a big Charizard. But that's like a lot of maintenance. Like if your opponent plays Iono, you have to get Rare Candy Charizard on the following turn, which isn't that hard. You have quick search. You can just quick search for one of them. But let's make it easier, right? So what you can really do is you can just nest ball for a Radzard, and you can quick search for a Fire like this. And now no matter what your opponent does, like the game is just over. Because all these Pokemon protect each other, right? So if they Ogerpon the Charizard, well obviously Radzard just comes up and knocks out Teal Mask. Okay? And the only Pokemon that can knock out Charizard in their deck is the Teal Mask. So like this Radzard completely protects this Charizard. And then your Charizard, it protects your backline as well, right? So the only Pokemon in their deck that can knock out Pidgeot is a Regidrago using Giratina. Well, if they do that, they're not knocking out our Charizard. If our opponent goes down to 1, Charizard just comes up and knocks out their Drago. Okay? The only 2 Pokemon that can knock out Radzard, I guess all their Pokemon can knock out Radzard in their deck, but if they knock out Radzard with Drago or with Ogerpon, same thing, Charizard EX survives. So I guess the only Pokemon they could try and knock out Radzard with that like wouldn't instantly lose them the game on the spot is their own Radzard. But then if like they knock out our Radzard, right, then Pidgeot and Charizard survive, and then you can just quick search for boss again. So yeah, by just getting this Charizard, like all 3 of them kind of protect each other. And you kind of just win from there, no matter what your opponent does. Okay, so now we're gonna go rewind back to the Drago turn, like, and figure out how they got into that position, and like we'll kind of see if they could have avoided it. Hopefully you are enjoying the video, and if you like this kind of puzzle or like board state in-depth breakdowns, and you want to support me, consider joining my Metafy group, Ciaran's Trainers Guild. I post 1 board state or puzzle a week. I post my tier list for the meta, and I post decks I'm working on, and I also have weekly group classes you can join as well. You can just come, ask any questions you want. And I also do stuff like VOD reviews, go over board states, play opening hands, things like that. It's a great way to support me. So check it out if you're interested. Otherwise, just enjoy the rest of the video. Okay, so we're going to start the Regidrago turn right here. This is right before the V-Star power. We're playing Ultra Ball to get our Drago V-Star. So the hand is, there's Grass, Boss, and then they're Ultra Balling, Ben's Ultra Ball, and Nest Ball to get a Drago V-Star. I don't really like the discards from this Ultra Ball. I think definitely the second Ultra Ball should be one of the 2 grass in your hand. You don't need 2 grass anymore. You've already Teal Danced this turn, so you can just attach 1 and then get an E-Switch. And we have a Hoot Hoot on our bench. So I don't know why you wouldn't just keep Ultra Ball, because Ultra Ball can just turn into Noctowl next turn, making it a lot easier to play the game. So that's the first thing I think could have maybe been different. That would have helped us a lot for our following turn to have a stronger follow-up. But you definitely need the V-Star here. If you don't, like, Sebastian's gonna get too far ahead. He already has Pidgeot going. He has Duskull, so he can pop this and take a prize next turn. So, okay. So there's the V-Star. It's actually pretty good what we discard. Dragapult gets discarded. The E-Switch, we needed 1 to get discarded, and then we only got rid of 1. Perfect. This other stuff, Clone, not that important. I don't think Sebastian plays Manaphy. Cleffa, not important. All that. So, in the real game, Ben's going to pick E-Switch and Iono, and he's going to play the Iono. And then he's going to kind of go for, like, eventually the Ciaran play, like we started the video off on. But I've built the board here. Again, you can open it if you want, and then kind of do your own assessment of what you would do, but I kind of want to go over some ideas I had. Like I said, first off, I would have Ultra Balled like this instead of Ultra Balling the Ultra Ball. I still would have picked Regidrago VSTAR. And then, yeah, you have the VSTAR power. These are the same cards in the video. Okay, so you discard all this, right? So now we have to figure out what to do. We haven't played a supporter yet, and we have Boss in our hand. So obviously E-Switch is one of the cards we're going to get, so we can attack this turn. But now we have to figure out what makes the most sense. So in the discard, we have Giratina, Dragapult, and Ciaran as our attackers. So there is Ciaran as an option, like from the real game, but like we kind of discussed of why that doesn't work is it just leaves yourself unable to attack on the following turn. And even if Sebastian doesn't do that Thornton play like we did, like we still have to work over 2 turns to attack. Like it would still probably win, but it leaves ourselves super vulnerable to that Thornton play. And our opponent has their Forest Sealstone left, so it's really not that unrealistic for them to get that. They only need 2 combo pieces. If our opponent gets like a Fez or something down, they can draw more cards. So I just think the Ciaran play is too greedy and risky. If you take 2 prizes as Drago right now, like you're just winning the game. Like you're ahead in the prize trade, and you just have to go 2-2-2, right? And there's lots of ways to play against Charizard. You can like use Ogerpon to knock out their Charizards. Like Drago can like knock out Rotoms, and it can knock out Pidgeots. You can just cure them later in the game if you really need to. So yeah, I think a much more conservative approach is definitely the way to go. So I think there's 2 routes you can pick. I think one route you can pick is you can play Boss's Orders, Giratina the Pidgeot, knock it out, get rid of 2 energy. I think this play is fairly reasonable. Pidgeot's like a really important part of the deck. So that would kind of look like this. We would E-Switch and retreat. And then you would just get rid of 2 energies here. I'd say the only risky thing about this is if you get like Unfair Stamped and then like Rare Candy Charizard and like this gets counter catchered. It could be a little hard to draw out of it. You would probably on your turn need to draw your Prime Catcher because they're going to have a Charizard in the active, right? Like they'll have Charizard, and then like this would die. You'd have 2. This would get counter catchered. This would get knocked out. You'd get Unfair Stamped to 2, and then yeah, like you would draw a hand like this or something, and then you can't really knock out the Charizard from here. You would need the Prime Catcher Rotom or something. Which could be a little tricky to pull off, I think. So, yeah, while the Giratina play like looks promising, I think it's a little too risky, and your opponent has like their Forest Sealstone available still. So I don't think you need to go that aggressive. Oh, sorry, gotta remake the board real quick. Because yeah, if they have their Forest Sealstone, like that's basically the same thing as them having Pidgeot for the following turn. So I think the play that I kind of like the most is I would probably go with the Dragapult option. So like this turn I want to boss the Rotom and Dragapult, because that way then my like guy saves all his energies. So then if I do get Unfair Stamp, then Boss's Orders does become an out. There should also be a Pidgey or who's on the bench here. Because then Boss's Orders does become an out if I keep all my energies. I don't have to remake a Drago if I bring up the Rotom. And then that also does leave us with, like, we can pick a different card from our V-Star power. So a couple of things we can think of is, like, we could grab Iono for the following turn. I don't know how powerful that would really be. I think maybe picking like Nest Ball or Ultra Ball might make sense. So if your opponent does play like Arven, which is I think like a very common supporter, and they do knock out Ogerpon, if I ask what's my opponent most likely to do, it is probably just counter catcher Ogerpon. We can just Nest Ball for another one, then we have Ultra Ball to make the Noctowl, and then we can just play Boss on our following turn. I think that's a reasonable take. You could maybe take a Vessel. You just want to get more energies for the following turn. I don't think I would pick Ultra Ball just because we already have one in our hand, and like I don't know if we have enough discards for both. I'd probably honestly just pick Nest Ball in this scenario because we're probably gonna get either disrupted, or if we don't get disrupted and they knock us out, then they're just gonna leave our hand, and then the hand has Ultra Ball. So I'd say like probably like this is what I would take. And then I would go for Boss on Rotom, and I would Phantom Dive. And I think the quick instinct is just to knock out Duskull. I don't really think you need to knock out Duskull. The reason being is if you knock out Duskull, then like if your opponent just goes like Arvin for like Rare Candy Charizard Defiance Band, like they just knock out your Drago because you'd be at 3 prize cards. And being at 3 prize cards doesn't really help us. Like we're probably going to try and go on a 2-2-2 prize map. So I would probably just Phantom Dive and like put like 3 on our opponent's Pidgeot. So this way we can like knock it out with Radzard later. I would put 1 on both Charmanders, just so if they don't evolve one of them, if I Phantom Dive on the following turn, I can take 2 prize cards. And the last damage counter, where would I put it? I don't think it matters that much. Maybe we just put on Pidgeot for now. And the other reason I like doing this, so if our opponent wants to knock out our Drago on the next turn, they have to pop Duskull. So they would have to like get a Charizard, let's just say Dusclops, and then they would just like pop Dusclops on like, if they had Defiance Band, they would pop somewhere on our bench. If they don't have Defiance Band, they would pop on our active. And then like in that scenario, we would just take a prize anyways. And that's effectively the same thing as Phantom Diving it, right? But then we just forced our opponent to like get a Dusclops as one of their cards, or a Dusknoir to take a knockout. So you actually just made your opponent like need 1 more card to knock out your Drago. And if they are knocking out Drago, that means they're using Charizard, which means Ogerpon is going to survive. And then like we have like our Ultra Ball to get the Noctowl. We can make like another Ogerpon. We can probably put together like an Ogerpon attack in response. So that's why I kind of like that. And the other reason I like that is like their Pidgeot is still on the board, so like we can just like knock it out later with like a Giratina attack if like they go after an Ogerpon or something, right? Like I said, we held onto our Ultra Ball off the V-Star power if they don't disrupt us. So we can kind of just knock this out with Regidrago. And then same thing, it's like if they don't evolve this Charmander, like we have options to like Phantom Dive if this guy survives. I just think leaving all the energy on the Drago is just a lot better because it just makes your next turn like so much easier. And it forces your opponent to put together like a huge combo turn of like Rare Candy, Charizard, Counter Catcher, like Unfair Stamp, if they really want to like make the game hard for you. So that's kind of how I maybe would have played the game to like avoid what ends up happening. But I'm curious what you guys think, or if more experienced Regidrago players have a different opinion than me. I think one other thing I failed to mention is you have your Fez as well on the board, so any disruption and knockout on Ogerpon just means this survives. To knock out Fez, then like I said, Ultra Ball, Noctowl, even energies to start drawing with Ogerpon is also pretty strong. So yeah, that's the analysis I had for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Let me know in the comments below if you guys have any other games or scenarios I should review next. I do my best to find these, but it would be a lot easier if people just send them in, so I'm always happy to review if it's a good situation. But other than that, please subscribe and like if you enjoyed the video, and until next time, I will see you guys later.